Trump administration is preparing to send election monitors to some California counties for next week's special election. Now, in response, California's Attorney General says the state is taking action.
KCRA 3 political director Ashley Zavala is here with what people can expect at the polls. Ashley?
Curtis and Lisa, California Attorney General Rob Bonta said the state will have its own observers, keeping an eye on the observers with the Trump administration. This all comes after the Trump administration's Department of Justice announced last week that it will send election monitors to 5 counties in California, not in our area, but Kern, Fresno, Riverside, Los Angeles, and Orange counties. On a virtual press conference with voting rights advocates today, Attorney General Rob Bonta acknowledged that the Department of Justice sending these monitors would actually be standard operating procedure, but said that these are not normal times. He suggested that this is an intimidation tactic by the Trump administration to use against, for example, immigrants who are lawfully able to vote. The Attorney General could not say who the state is using specifically to keep an eye on those monitors, noting it's to be determined, but it could be from his office, the Secretary of State, or county registrar of voters in those areas. The Trump administration's monitors are coming at the request of the California Republican Party, who pointed to specific issues in those counties that I mentioned. That includes duplicate ballots being sent in Riverside, past inconsistencies in the ballot curing deadline in Fresno, and concerns with voter rolls and list maintenance in Orange and Los Angeles counties. I asked Bonta about these concerns specifically. Here's part of that conversation.
Are those, I guess, issues that don't require the monitors in your perspective?
I don't think they require the monitors. And look who's saying this. It's the Republican Party. It's a party that has subscribed to a conspiracy about the 2020 elections with no proof, with no evidence, with no facts, with no data to back it. Trump continues to say that he won the 2020 election. It's insane. It is crazy. It is not true, and it is dangerous. And so, of course, perfection is our goal. Complete accuracy in every single way, and confidence is important. But the feigned worry by the Republican Party, I don't think is a good source of true raising of concerns and surfacing of concerns about the elections.
But the issues that they're raised, I mean, if not the federal election monitors, I mean, would your office be willing to take on or take a look at these issues? I mean, how do those issues and how is perfectionism essentially reached then, if not with outside oversight?
There definitely needs to be accountability in everything. We're holding the Trump administration accountable each and every time it breaks the law. And so, each of the issues that you've raised, I'm not sure that they're not already addressed. I'm not sure what the underlying merits originally were or not. We can take a look at that. And the Secretary of State, of course, has a role. I have a role.
I also reached out to California Republican Party Chairwoman Corinne Rankin and the person she sent that letter to, Assistant Attorney General for the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, for an interview. Neither were available today. We do not have any specifics on when those Trump administration monitors are showing up and what exactly they are expected to do. Back to you.
All right, Ashley, thank you.